right, guys, UFC 315 is just in the books, and I'm joined by a very special friend of mine who is, I can't wait to hear what he thinks about what just happened. JDM beating Belal and now potentially fighting Islam Makhachev next, according to Dana White in the press conference earlier this week. Javier Mendez, what about this? You just don't know in MMA sometimes, do you? A lot of people thought Belal was going to get it done, but JDM just put on the performance of a lifetime.
Yeah, I was hoping Belal would get it done also, and unfortunately, he just couldn't get started. Right from the get-go, Jack played his game, and Belal didn't play his game or didn't want to play his game. Hard to say. I didn't see too many takedown attempts from Belal. There was a lot of them available. He just didn't go for them. Maybe because he found some success on the stand-up. I don't know. I mean, only his camp and him would know, but he didn't go for him like he needed to, I thought. But at the same time, too, maybe Jack didn't allow him, those opportunities. But Jack did a great job. I mean, and he mixes up his punches and his kicks really well, keeps his distance really well, stayed in the middle the majority of the time. He's all around just a really, really good fighter. Now he's a champ.
It was wild to see because I guess a lot of us, when we previewed the fight, we looked at his fight with Gilbert Burns. And Gilbert was able to get it on his hips over and over and take him down repeatedly. And in this fight, like you mentioned, Belal didn't go for a takedown for a really long time. And then when he did go for those takedowns, he was able to stop those takedowns, reverse the positions. He looked really, really good. Do you believe that if Belal would have implemented his takedown game a little bit earlier, it might have helped stop Jack sort of get comfortable with his striking and disrupt his rhythm a little bit more?
100%, 100%. As being a coach and, knowing what I do know is that you don't let a person get in his rhythm. It's really hard to get him out of that rhythm once you let him in it. And I think he let Jack get in his rhythm way too far, and it was just too late. If he tried to come back even later to implement his plan, Jack had so much confidence going into it and so much success. And the problem I feel from watching it is Belal was being successful with the stand-up himself. So it wasn't like he wasn't landing any shots, and he was landing good shots himself, but he was just a little bit behind, on the standing exchanges. So
yeah, it seems like Belal was just kind of going into Jack's game as the fight went on. Oh, good, Javier. Can you hear me?
Yeah, someone keeps calling me, and it's like,
oh, good. Yeah, I mean, you're right, man. It was an interesting one. Now, Belal spoke to me a few days, like a week or so ago, and he told me he wanted to stand with Jack Della, and he didn't want to wrestle him. And I think you said exactly the right thing. Belal was having enough. Like, if you look at Jack's face, Belal was having good success in landing his shots, but the problem was he was not playing the game that he usually plays. Like, he was going into the game plan of Jack Della. And at the end of the day, Jack had the more significant shots, right? And those were the positions that he wanted to be in with Belal.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. You get comfortable thinking, "Oh, I'm going to prove to people I can stand." Because none of us thought that that Belal would be able to beat him just stand up. So he wanted to. Us thought he could do, and that's what I'm thinking. So I could be wrong, but that's what it appeared like to me, that he wanted to stand. He didn't want to implement what got him the title, and that's the mistake people do. And that's one of the things that I don't know if you guys always remember, but I'm always used to be on Khabib all the time, because Khabib, everybody always criticized him for not being good at, always keep him on track, but he'd always go off track, trying to prove people that he could stand, and he could stand. As the fights went on later, he was able to stand really well. I mean, extremely well. But I still didn't like that, because I wanted him to go back to made him the best, and that's the mistake a lot of fighters make. They want to try to prove their point, that they can do other things that people think they can't do. So they go out and attempt them, and they're having success. And this is the case here. I think, personally, I could be wrong, but I think Belal wanted to show everybody that he could stand, and he said the words. And sometimes, believe it or not, when you say that, you go out and try to prove what you say, And is this the case? I don't know. Belal knows. I don't. I just know that he didn't do enough takedowns attempts.
It was incredibly impressive from JDM because he still did get a dangerous, like you said, version of Belal. And a shout out to Belal. I know he gets a lot of hate, but he's a very tough competitor. He worked so hard to get to the title. And even in the losing effort against JDM, he still kept going to the very end and kept trying to win the fight. So shout out to him. I want to see him bounce back as well. And a lot of respect to everything that he's achieved. And I know you spoke to me about how you've always wanted to see Islam move up and fight for welterweight. What was your reaction? And by the way, you don't know anything. They haven't said anything to you. So the people watching, please don't take this out of context. But what was your reaction when you saw Dana White basically during the press conference earlier this week confirm that if JDM wins, you guys will be fighting against him rather than Ilia Topuria, who would be fighting Charles Oliveira instead?
If they grant that to Islam, if that's what the UFC decides to do, it would be a legacy fight for Islam, because his goal was to fight for that welterweight title if it was available, meaning Belal wasn't there. But now that Belal's not there, if the UFC grants him that, that would be unbelievable, and even more unbelievable if it grants him that fight in a favorable place for us. But who knows? Let's see what they come up with. Like I said in the past, I've never been involved in any of the discussions when it comes to any of Khabib's fights or Khabib's fighters. It's always been Ali and Rizwan. They do an unbelievable job, and I do what I always do. They tell me, Coach, we're fighting so-and-so, camp starts so-and-so. Okay, when you need me, blah, blah, blah. Then I get into work. We put in our work, like we always do. So the way I look at it is there's no need for me to come in and say, hey, I want to be involved in the decision-making. If I've never been involved before, why all of a sudden I want to start being involved? The wheel's not broken. Leave it alone. If my ego gets hurt, tough luck on me. That's just the way it should be. I shouldn't ruffle feathers, and I don't, and I'm very happy in my position. I'm okay with not being involved in that. So yeah, no, I don't get involved.
Of course, yeah. Now, the rumors are that it might be in Australia in September, but like you said, nothing's confirmed. We'll see what happens. Would you be happy to come back down to Australia? Like, obviously, you're not making the decisions here, but you guys obviously already fought Volkanovski in Perth, right? Would you take that?
Yeah,
if the UFC said that?
Yeah, I don't mind. I think how far is Australia from here to from Dubai to Australia? Or Russia, Dagestan. What is it? Is that a pretty good trip?
Yeah, it's a pretty good trip. We're looking from Russia. We're looking at 34 hours and 30 minutes.
It's a no. It's a no. I don't look.
It's gonna have to be a really nice first-class flight for the entire team, right? If that happens.
Yeah, who cares if they decide to make us do that? I mean, that's what it is. That's what it is. But let's hope that pound for pound #1 gets to make a decision where if that's what they offer us, because he is still #1 and we don't know what's going on. So this, like you said, you and I are just talking, but I do know for a fact that the welterweight title, and having a legacy to win 2 titles is more attractive than any other fight that's available for him if they offer him that.
Let me ask you this. For me, when I was doing the reaction show, I said, this JDM and Islam Makhachev fight is even more interesting now because JDM was able to stop Belal Muhammad. And obviously Belal and Islam, 2 very different fighters. But I feel like fans are going to be more excited to see it now because JDM was at least able to beat Belal, right? He was able to stop a few takedowns. He was able to implement some of his striking. How do you feel about this version of JDM as a challenge for Islam? Do you feel like he's a harder challenge than an Ilia Topuria at lightweight?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say if he's a harder challenge. I just know Islam wants this one. So for me, that's the challenge I want, and it's the challenge that I know Islam's going to be, supreme over, because I just know his skill set. I know what he brings to the table, and he brings an incredible work ethic along with skill set in every area. So Islam is a whole different animal than the Jack's ever been involved with. So if that fight does materialize, we're going to see a hell of a fight, and you're going to see Islam perform at an absolute incredible level. And also, the weight is not super big for him either. So he's going to be a fairly decent welterweight. So Islam won't be a small guy. He'll be a decent welterweight if that fight materializes.
I wonder as well, do you believe we might actually see Islam perform even better at welterweight just because he doesn't have to cut so much? I've always wondered, because obviously cutting the weight down to lightweight, that's a real killer for him. He's a big guy. Do you think we might actually see him have a bit more energy, or maybe a bit more speed, or look a little bit different even in this fight if he's at welterweight?
I'm hoping, I haven't seen it, so I haven't seen him at welterweight, but I'm thinking, logically speaking, he has to cut less weight, and, recovery time is a lot less too. So, but if it is in Australia, we'll need it, because in Australia, they only give you 24 hours to recover. Then it's not a 36 hours like everywhere else. So we'll only have 24-hour recovery. So if that's the case, it's fantastic. And I don't know if that's going to be an advantage because of that reason. But if it's anywhere else where it's the 36-hour plus, then it's a nice advantage for Islam to recover quicker. Not that it's a disadvantage or not an advantage for Jack. It's the same for Jack, but for us, it could make a difference, 24 hours versus 36 hours for recovery. Because I know it was for Volk. It was a big difference.
Let me ask you this. I know that we spoke about how important takedowns are for Belal, but Islam is one of the most well-rounded. We've spoken about this before. One of the most well-rounded pound-for-pound fighters that's ever fought in MMA. His striking has come a long way. Would you guys shy away from striking with Jack Della? And would you be looking for the takedown, or would you be happy to get in there and sort of let Islam trade with Jack, because obviously he's improved so much?
Well, remember, like I've always said, Islam is the type of fighter that he can change second per second, minute per minute, round for round, and go the direction that Habib, myself, Magomed, or Saif Safullah, and even Muhammad, are the coaches that train him, would instruct him to do. So he will do what we ask him to do. So we would dictate the fight based on how well he's doing or not doing, so and he can do it all. So can he take Jack down? Absolutely, he can take him down. Can he outstrike Jack? Absolutely, he can outstrike him. But is it wise to try to outstrike him? Like I feel we can. I don't know. It may not be. It may be a better deal to do what Belal should have done and what he didn't do. And that's something I know that Islam will do, because he's never not listened to us as his corner, his coaches. He's always listened to all of us. He is the most disciplined, well-trained, fighter I've ever had in that department. He's never not done what Habib or I has ever told him to do. Never.
Let me ask you this. I saw that Islam said he doesn't want to vacate the lightweight belt. Obviously, he's pound for pound #1 in many people's books. I know the UFC has spoken about that they don't like people having two belts, but I think he's a special case, right? Like if Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira do fight, it should be for the interim belt. Like if Islam moves up, he should still be able to retain his lightweight title, right? Like in your opinion, obviously you're not making any of the decisions.
Yeah, of course, that's what I would love. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But again, we don't even have a welterweight title in our hands either.
Of course,
so
yeah.
Let's be real, okay? You and I talking fantasy
yeah.
MMA right now. We're not really talking reality, but we are talking about scenarios that are going to be discussed. That is for sure. We're not talking baloney about that. We are talking scenarios that are probable, and the people that are listening to us, these are the probable scenarios that can arise, and these are about the only ones that are going to arise. So this you will see. So you are not. And I are not talking actual facts, but we're actually talking things that the fans should be really interested in hearing, because we're actually telling the truth about the possibilities.
You know what's interesting as well? I know you and the team have said you'd love to see, Ilia fight someone at lightweight to prove himself before he fights Islam, right? So in a way, isn't this kind of a cool scenario? Like, let's say this does happen. You guys do fight for the welterweight belt. You do win it. and then Ilia does fight Charles and he wins the interim lightweight belt, would that make you feel a little bit more comfortable than, like, all right, now he's proven himself at 155, and then potentially after Jack, now it makes more sense to have this super fight with Ilia Topuria now that he's proven himself at 155?
Of course, yeah, of course. That would make everybody happy. You know, if something like that were to happen, and the UFC gods make those decisions, and everybody accepts, that would be the ideal situation. You know, and again, like I said, these are actual facts of what could happen and are going to be discussed. I know that what we're talking about are discussions to be made. What will happen, we don't know, but we're pretty close. I'm pretty sure about that. I mean, it's very obvious. Anybody that's a real fan and follows the sport knows that, you know, this is the actual scenarios that could play out.
I love that, man. So from your perspective, I know you guys will do your meetings. Are you guys going to likely start a camp soon? And have you spoken to the team yet about what's next? Obviously, no opponent has been confirmed, but what are the next steps for you personally as we sort of figure out what's next?
Well, this is what usually happens. Unless I call, which I usually don't, Habib will call me and they'll say, Coach, we're going here and blah, blah, blah. Can you come? He never says come. He says, can you come? He's always so respectful. He always asks me, can I come? And of course, I'm going to say yes, you know. So that's usually what ends up happening. So, but as far as a 2-month camp, you got to remember one thing. Yes, we do need a 2-month camp because we need to prepare for that particular individual. But Islam is always training anyway, so it's not like these guys don't train year-round. They train year-round. That's why they're always getting so good all the time. They're always different when they fight. They're much better because they're always putting time in the gym. But you know, it depends on, you know, how much they go in as far as hard work. You know, I don't think Islam's doing much sparring at all unless he needs to spar to help one of his teammates.
As we wrap up, I just want to bring this crazy fact up. In the post-fight interview, Jack Della, he said, you know, when he got asked about Islam, he said, I want to get this one back for Volk. Obviously, he's got the relationship with Alex Volkanovski. How crazy is it? You guys, like the two teams, and obviously both of you guys respect each other. Both teams, you know, have a lot of respect. Alex's team respects you. You guys respect Alex's team. But how crazy is it that both of you guys are tied in this crazy journey together, this martial arts journey? They might see you go all the way back to Australia. Now there's JDM, who, you know, is like a part of kind of this Alex Volkanovski thing. And here you guys go again. Isn't it wild how these things play out?
Yeah, it's wild, and it's funny how you keep saying Australia, but I want to say USA. so that Australian trip frightens me a little bit. So USA or Dubai or UAE. That'd be nice if they give us that. I don't know what's going to happen. We do know Islam is going to make a decision, because I do know that there's been speculated that decision will be made after this, what the UFC is going to want to do, and you and I will hear very soon what the decision is going to be and what direction they're going to go. But I guarantee you it's going to be somewhere right along the lines of what we're talking about, unless contract negotiations fall apart all the time. So who knows, you know, where it's going to land. But we know one thing's for sure. We're going to know International Fight Week this week coming up. We're going to know who's the players.
Well, dude, I'm so happy for you guys. I really wanted Islam to get this opportunity to fight for a second belt before it's all said and done. So it's awesome that you guys are going to be able to make more history. As we wrap up, what's your early feeling on this one? Do you have a feeling on how this fight would go? Like, do you see Islam finishing JDM early? Do you think this is going to be a battle that kind of drags out into the later rounds? Early feeling after what you saw JDM do today, how do you think this fight would go?
Well, because of the respect for Jack and any champion, I never say we're going to finish him, because that's short-sightedness. I always like going 5-round wars. I like being in the mental battle all the way through from the beginning to the end. Anybody on my team could say, yeah, we're going to finish him in this, we're going to do that, but not me. I'm going to go 5-round war. We're going to go toe-to-toe with him. We're going to win every round. We're going to win every minute, you know, and that type of scenario is the way I like to be engaged. So I don't deviate 1 second from oh, well, there's the second round. I said we were going to knock him out in the second round. All of a sudden, that little slight miss of the brain, all of a sudden I might miss something that could be very important that I can mention to Islam that can change the course of what we're doing in the fight. So that's why I don't like doing that. Not maybe in my heart, I might feel we could do this, but for me to come out and voice that and actually feel that, that's different. I really feel what I'm saying is I like to be engaged. So I don't really like talking about finishing anybody other than winning every round.
Hey guys, I just want to take a quick moment to thank my sponsor, MANSCAPED, who has been a sponsor here at Submission Radio for a really, really long time. Did you guys know that without sponsors, this program would basically not exist? There's all sorts of costs and things that go into me keeping this thing alive. So I appreciate you guys supporting our sponsors, and Manscaped is a very special one. I want to talk to you guys about one of the hottest things happening right now, and that is, of course, the Beard and Balls Bundle. That features the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra and the Beard Hedger. Those are the two prime things I love to use. Keep those balls smooth with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. It's perfect to take with you wherever you go. And if you want to keep your beard at a perfect length, the Beard Hedger is really the only tool for the job. By the way, you guys have your customizable trimming, your dual blade system, you got skin safe technology, you got long lasting power. I don't have to tell you about the waterproof design, the precision lighting. It's all in one grooming, and you guys can get 20% off right now at Manscaped. That's 20% off right now at Manscaped with the code word submission, and you get free shipping today. But most importantly, don't forget, when you purchase with this code, you're ensuring that there will be more Submission Radio in the future. So please go on to Manscaped right now. Purchase with the code word submission. They have amazing products. They've got all sorts of creams and lotions, and they've also got the most comfortable underwear you could ever purchase. Just a plethora of things. Go on there, use the code word submission, free shipping, and you guys support this program. How much better can it get? Support yourself and support this show with the code word Manscaped. I love it. And by the way, before we wrap up, if the UFC rightfully should and do grant you guys the choice to have both belts, will there be any issue staying active and having to defend a lightweight belt and a welterweight belt and a lightweight belt? And, you know, just because there's so many contenders, do you see that being an issue at all for you guys?
You know, you never know. Probably it can be worked out. Obviously, you know, I mean, this happened before where two people have held the belts, you know, and been able to do it. But let's see what they offer us first. They haven't offered us anything yet, you know. So let's see what happens, and we'll go from there. But I think it could possibility be that they grant us, you know, both. You know, let's see.
I love it. You guys went from having no contenders to now having contenders in all sorts of divisions. And I just love this scenario. You guys go fight Jack, you know, potentially win this welterweight belt, and then fight Ilia once he wins the interim belt. And that's two massive fights back to back. And I love to see you guys get the opportunity to do that because you deserve it. Javier Mendez, thank you so much for joining me, man. This is an exciting time to be in the sport. People are talking about the Great Depression of MMA. Things have brightened up all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, they brightened up. Yeah, no. And, you know, I just, you know, like I said, for Belal, you know, my heart goes out to him. Yeah. He's a warrior. And, you know, you know, hopefully he'll come back and do well in his next fight. And let's see what happens. But again, you know, like you and I kind of alluded to, he didn't fight his normal fight when he fought Leon Edwards. And that's the fight he should have fought because he's fighting a very, very good striker, you know, and Jack is a very good striker. I love the way he goes to the body, head, and mixes everything up with the kicks. And he's smart staying in the middle of the cage. I mean, Jack did a lot of, and then that jab, nice jab, sticking that jab out there. Good length. He's got a good length, you know, and very relaxed when he did everything. I mean, very good striker. So I'm kind of shocked that he didn't go to the wrestling more. But hey, it is what it is. You know, maybe Jack didn't allow him.
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, that's a big compliment coming from you, one of the best coaches in the game and someone with such a sharp striking pedigree. Javier Mendez, thank you so much for joining me. Can't wait to see what's next, whatever it is. Pack those bags because you might be flying to Australia. No, I'm kidding. Whatever it is, I can't wait to chat to you next, man. Thank you so much for joining me.
All right, buddy. Thanks.